Well, hello, and welcome back. I'm AJ O'Neill. I will be your Beyond Code live coder for today. And what we're working on is this is a continuation of the Node.js Auth project from before. I, of course, always recommend that you go to gist.github.com and take some notes on anything that you learn that you're going to find useful, any questions that you have. So you keep track of them and ask me in the comments later if I don't answer it or whatever, stuff like that. And if at any point you have one of those aha moments where this has been useful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I've got I've got two Pomodoro timers, but for the sake of your ears and not having to hear this one click, clack, and ding, ding one as well, and this is what I'm using at work now. So I'm going to go ahead and set this for 55 minutes. And let's see how much we can get done. I think we get a fair amount done. We're going to add Google sign-in to the Auth project that we were doing the cookie and token exchange on. So let me go ahead and get started. Oh, and I've got the comments open on YouTube and Twitch. And so I'll try to peek over. And let's see. Okay, so... and I updated the README with the live recordings. In fact, I'm going to update the README a little bit better in that regard, because there's two blog articles. So I'm just going to make a resources section down at the bottom, and I'm going to put, let's see, we got the live recordings, the making of. We've got... Last time I created the Express Cookies cheat sheet. And I'm just gonna, that's too long. So instead of giving that, I should probably put both of these in short form. Let's call this live recordings of the making of this project. Sure, that sounds like a good name. Express cheat sheet. And then Google sign in. I don't even know what to call this. But I'll open up this blog in just a second and you'll see. But this is something I've been adding to over the years, because every time I go to do Google sign in, it's always difficult and complicated, and I never remember what the heck it is that I'm doing. And so I just have my own blog, and Google's got 10 different documentation pages for it. It's just, because they've been building over the course of the last 15 years. And so their documentation is just all over the place. And it's hard to tell, what's the best practices that are current versus what's old not. Anyway, so I got this. That is going to be... I don't know. I hesitate to call it the cheat sheet because it's way too long. You'll see it in just a second. And then I need to update. I'm gonna add some to-dos is what I'm gonna do. Let me just go ahead and save that. And I wasn't gonna make this public yet, but then somebody pointed out, hey, I can't get to the repo even though I'm watching you do this. And so that was kind of obvious that, I need to add that. So now I've got it. And, I just need to, let me actually switch it so I can kind of see my face, so I know if I do something stupid, like completely hide my face, and yet I'll still be able to see comments coming in. There we go. Because sometimes I do something like this and then my face is gone. All right. So I'm going to open up an issue, and there's a couple things that came up. Last time I talked about how I needed to do a little bit more discovery with the project that this is integrating into to kind of figure out what the integration needs to look like. And now I realize that I need to add hints for multi-factor or two-factor authentication, as well as, well, I guess I should say MFA, 2FA, and hints. There we go. So we want to support Twilio for SMS, or I think we could use Nexmo. But I've used Twilio before. If I was starting out fresh, I'd probably go Nexmo because they're more price competitive. And I mean, sending a text message is sending a text message. It does matter that you can get the volume out because there is a limit to how many messages can go across the network from a number at a particular time. But I would imagine that they're probably fairly equal on those grounds. Mailgun I used to really love, and now I'm kind of looking for an alternative because they've changed to their audiences and they've changed their feature set, which is just all part of natural growth of a company. But I'm looking for anymore. But still, for the basic just sending email, what they did is they cut out the receiving email. That's now the pro plan rather than the basic plan of email, but they won't do that anyway. So Mailgun for SMTP/email. And then we want to do Authenticator App. And I'm just going to show off this real quick. If you go to therootcompany.com/authenticator. Oh, it's not there? Okay. We'll go to, it should be here then. rootprojects.org. I need to bring that back over. What? Oh, yeah, okay, it is here. So, Authenticator in the browser. Kind of cool. I wrote libraries for both Node and the browser for this. Anyway, and that's actually what I would be using, is I would be using the libraries, the same libraries that I wrote for this, which are probably linked to here, but the link's probably out of date or something. Yeah, I need to move where that is. But anyway, there's that. So the bigger part here about this, and I know this isn't the core of what we're doing here, but again, this is real code. I'm actually doing this for somebody and I need to think through it, is where is this going to go? Because basically there's two ways. So this is services to support. Let's wrap that in a bow. That's done. How to do. So one option is to have something like when we post to, well, not post. We could do a get beforehand to API authn users, and we could get some details about the user. And sometimes, how to say, sometimes security people get their knickers in a knot about something like this because, oh, well, that reveals if somebody has an account. You could actually do it both ways, though. You could make it so that it revealed, it just gave back dummy information if there's no account present. But anyway, when the user puts in their username and then they click next, beforehand, are you going to need to have a text message sent off or something like that? Or you can do it so that when they do post to session with their credentials, such as the Google login or username and password or whatever it is, whatever we decide to do there, that it will return an error. So we could do it so beforehand we say, hey, I think the way we need to do it is the error route, but I'm not 100% sure. But we could do it beforehand and say, hey, let me know whether or not this user needs to do two-factor authentication, and if they do, let's tell them whether they're going to be checking their phone or they're going to be checking their email or they're going to be pulling out their Authenticator app. And then the other way to do it is to say, okay, well, we'll post the username and password and then we'll get back an error. Now, the thing I don't like about this is I prefer second-factor authentication with maybe another factor of authentication, because passwords are basically zero-factor, so they don't really count because a multitude of reasons. So if you just send somebody an email, then you have pretty much verification that they're holding a device in their hand or they're sitting in front of a computer, assuming that their password isn't leaked online and everywhere. But people for corporate accounts and stuff, they typically have some sort of policy in place where your company email at least has a password requirement that's not 3 characters or some stupid. Anyway, Enough on that. That one just needs to hang tight there for a little bit. And then the next issue, the meat of what we're going to be doing right now is add Google sign-in. And I don't know that I really need right now. And I have a pretty clear picture in my head of what we need to do because I've done it so often recently. It's not something I can do from memory, but we're going to open up this article in just a second. And you'll see, I don't know why I'm yawning. It's the middle of the day. It's just, I probably need to improve my posture or something. So anyway, let's go down here. Yeah, I'm going to edit the README and I'm going to add kind of what I think this should be. Why in the world do they not have syntax highlighting in here? They have it in the gist. Why do they have it in the gist editor, but they don't have it in the main editor? That doesn't make any sense. Again, incongruency. This should just be in both. All right. We're going to take this and I'm going to add to it. For the thing that I need to have done pretty immediately for the weekend, they're not even going to use username and passwords. Hurrah. It's just going to be Google sign-in. Everybody in the company already has a Google account, and only people that have company accounts can log in, and they're basically going to make a policy change so that people that have been using personal emails for this, that, and the other will have to have a company email, but then it's going to get them all under the same umbrella. They're going to all have the same security policy. They're not going to have to worry about these things as much. Anyway, so this is what I want it to be. What I want there to be posted is I want an authorization bearer here, bearer. And this is what HTTP actually looks like. Just if you were to look at the text, the stream of text or a file, if you just saved out what the HTTP stuff is, this is what it would look like when you see it kind of like this. So hopefully you're already really, really, really important to become familiar with HTTP because it's one of those things that's so simple, but if you don't actually know it, it shows and it limits your opportunity and there's no sense in not learning. And I've got another video where I just used netcat and curl or something like that and kind of walk through how it works. Anyway, let me check my phone here just in case it's my wife. Okay. No, it's not. But I do need to send a message to somebody in a minute. So we're gonna accept the token, and we don't need a body for this. We're just gonna post with the token, and then what we're gonna get back in this case is, well, actually, the body is optional. The body is optional. So I'm gonna leave that in there. And then I wonder if I should just use basic auth for this one. Huh. That makes me consider authentication basic. I'm going to think on that rather than having this in the body, because then these will be more similar. But it's not important. It's not really that important. And then, so I've got two deployments of this that are going to happen. One of them needs to be able to manage sub-accounts. The other one does not. So that's just going to be optional. It's going to be specific to the implementation. And then let's see here, the response of this. Are we going to set a cookie? Yeah, we're still going to set a cookie on this, just the same. And we're going to get back an ID token and or access token. So for the one company, it's just going to be an ID token they'll get back from this. From the other one, well, actually, they'll both get access tokens from this, I think. Maybe, potentially. No, one of them will get an ID token first, and then they have to use the ID token to list the sub accounts, and they have to pick the sub account. Then they'll get the access token in the exchange. The other one will just get the access token straight without getting the ID. It needs to be known about the user in the company to do what they need to do in the application is going to be specified ahead of time. Okay, so we got that there. And I know that's the thing. This is the main thing that we need to add, and we've got 40 minutes left to add it. I think that is reasonable. So I'm going to go ahead and click save on this and start hacking away. I still have the project running here in the background from last time. I never closed it out. It's just sitting there. But if you don't mind, give me just 1 second here. I'm going to paste over to my buddy, and then he might join in, watch, and ask some questions too. All right. So that is our goal. And then a lot of this code, it's already there. I'm going to go down into how to add Google Sign-In and work from that. Oh, again, with the yawns. I don't know why the yawns. It's the middle of the day. Okay. So what I will do is I will go to the dashboard because I'm going to need to get... I'm going to have to set up my API key for this. Okay, so I've got my Beyond Code demo is the project that I'm in. Good. I'm going to go into credentials. I'd already set this up, and I had another video where it showed me setting this up, which is why it already exists. But then the mic wasn't plugged in. The USB had an error, and so I have to go back and redo that. And this is just too much nonsense to do right now. You'll see when we go through the blog article, you got to click around in 100 different places in here just to do a couple of things. It's kind of obnoxious. Okay. And I need to make sure, goodtimes.dev is what we had on there. I'm going to go ahead. Do I add localhost? Nah. Localhost is for ninnies. Okay, I'll be a ninny. I really don't like the idea of developing on localhost. I think there's a lot of downsides to it. It creates a lot of complication, and it's not realistic. You don't deploy things on localhost. Why would you develop on localhost? Instead, I say just, keep it consistent. Develop in a similar environment to what you're deploying on. Now, since my environments are so simple, that's pretty much always the way that it is. Anyway, I need to go in here, and I'm going to need to grab... Where's the key? Oh, the client ID, client secret. Here we go. Look, you can steal my client secret. It's right there. I wonder why they show that. Huh. That just seems really weird to me that they would show the client secret there. Normally there's like a click button to hide show. But it's okay. This is just junk, and that's a development domain, so I'm not risking anything here. But I am going to go ahead and create... Do we have an example.env already? We do. And then let's do Google clients. It's called client ID, right? Yeah. Through the course of the OAuth and OAuth 2 and OIDC, which is kind of equivalent to OAuth 3 more or less, is that the name of things has changed. So it's been called client ID and app ID and all sorts of stuff. But I think the name that we've landed on officially is client ID. So this will be the Google Client ID. And I did save this, right? Yeah, I did save it. Okay. And oh no, I don't want to do it like that, silly. What does this look like? This looks like some numbers. Oh, sorry. And that looks like base 64. I like to keep as close of a representation between the example and the real thing as I can. In some cases I don't, but I do a lot. Okay, here we go. And here's all my stuff. Great. So how to go through that process to where you get your client ID, because I just kind of glossed over that. It was already there. Read through this. Basically, link and keep on going back to it. And this should be in the video description. If it's not already, I think it may not be already. I'll go back and I'll add it in. But therootcompany.com/blog and then search for the Google sign-in thing. Anyway, you kind of have to keep on coming back to this URL because as you're doing stuff, it's going to take you away to a different URL, but then you need to continue the process back at this one. And that's why it's kind of confusing. So if you create an account here, it's likely going to take you to a completely different tool inside of the Google Workspace suite. And then you need to go back here to continue going on once you've created the account, which is really weird because you go in here to create an account and you don't end up back at the same place. So there's some of that. Then you need to add a test domain. You got to verify the domain. You go and you enable OAuth 2. You select OAuth consent screen. In this case, for my demo purposes, I'm setting it to be external, meaning anybody can sign in. But for the real use case, it's going to be internal, meaning only, well, it's different for the two projects as to whether or not the only people at the company domain can sign in or not. You set a couple of scopes, which again, I'll go through this another time. We'll do it step by step. It's just a lot of clicking around. You create your credentials. It's an OAuth client ID web application. Those are the things where from the list you might not know what to choose. You get the client ID, that you get the client secret like we see here. Add collaborators. You might want to add other people in your company or people that you're working with on the project. That's a different product that you go to add collaborators. You can't get to that product from the dashboard product, I don't think. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a lot of stuff going on. And then we got to do some front end code, but I just kind of work on the back end. I want to work on the back end code mostly right now. I guess we do need to work on some of the front end code, but I think I mostly have the front end code done. Let me see. goodtimes.dev. Is this all done? No. Let's try app.goodtimes.dev. I had this somewhere. duckdns.beyondcode.org. Oh, whoops. beyondcode.duckdns.org. Duh. And let me see if I started adding my login stuff here. Nope, did not. Okay, so I'm just going to add that from scratch. We're going to build it out from this part. So sorry, I'll put a link in the description when I go back and redo actually stepping through the clicking on that stuff. You can certainly figure it out from what I explained. It's just a lot to click on and it's obnoxious. Okay, so we're going to create our sign-in page. That's where we'll start before we go to the node stuff. We'll create our sign-in page. I will just go ahead and do some copying and pasting here. And let's see. So we're going to want an index.html. Actually, let's put a public folder. And then I'm opening up the node server. And I'm going to say if it's a development environment. Let's see. Error handler. So if do I have this already in here? Development. So let me think if I want to put it up there or not, because I may or I may not. Because this is up before all the other stuff happens, it looks like. Yeah. I think I'm actually going to put this down at the end. So I'll just copy this bit. And I'll put it right before the end here. So we'll use the express, I think it's express static is what it is, if I'm not mistaken. And then we'll want to tell it from the directory that this is running from. Now, in this case, we want to say from the directory where this file exists, because for the demo at least that's how it's going to be, and probably in other local developments, and we can always change it later if we need to. We're going to look for the public folder, so that's what we're going to serve. And I think we're just going to handle gets. There's some sort of caveat, and I wish this is something that I should have put in a blog article and I should have written down perfectly. There is some sort of caveat between doing an app.use and an app.get with express.static, but I don't remember what it is. But I think since it's down here at the end, I don't think it's going to matter. And if it's something we find out really quickly, we'll find out really quickly. Anyway, so we're going to create a public directory, and we're going to put our little demo thing in here. Okay, it already exists. We already did that. So public index.html. And let's just copy and paste some code. And I'll explain it as we go through. Actually, there's a good boilerplate I should use, but I'm not going to use it right now because I'm just going to focus on this. When I get a little bit further along with this demo, I might clean it up and make the demo page look a little nicer. There is one thing that I could do right off the bat, though. Let me do this. It's called classless CSS. And there's this one that's the big list. There's that one, which I haven't checked out yet. I'm just kind of curious, since somebody created their own domain here. What does it look like? I'll be interested to see. Oh, this could be cool. Demo. Okay, yeah, I like the style of this. Oh, and I like that they changed the color of the links. That's great. Yeah, this actually is probably the best one that I've seen so far. I don't even know if it's on this list here. I don't know how I missed it before. Maybe it just came about recently. Probably not. But anyway, I'm going to use this as the style for the page. So, getting started. Ba-da-da-bum. Actually, we also have a pre-made tiny version of the most basic style tables, blah, blah, blah. Simplifying production for yourself. I'm surprised that they didn't put this up on NPM so that it goes into one of their CDNs, but this is all right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to add this so the page is not horrendously ugly, because when something is too ugly, it's just kind of hard to use sometimes. I guess all we're going to be adding on here is a button and some text, but whatever. It's nice to have stuff look nice. Okay, so I'm going to get that. I'm going to put this into public CSS. That's where we're going to move this to. And then I'm going to go back into my index.html. And we're going to reference instead CSS classless. There we go. They actually did ask, I don't know if you read quickly, but I skim stuff very quickly while I'm looking at it. So even though I'd never been at this page before, as I'm like scrolling through, I'm actually looking for keywords as I'm just like, and it actually did say, I don't know in which paragraph, but it said, we prefer that you download this and you use it yourself. Well, they said in production, but whatever, it's all the same. So we're going to have that CSS, and we're going to, let me get the client ID that we need from Google. All right, there we are. And what's the next thing that we need here? Let me close this out, although I'm going to bookmark this. Close this out. Close this out. By the way, Command D is bookmark in pretty much every browser, in case you didn't know. All right, close all that out. We're probably going to need to keep this open. We definitely need to keep this open. I don't actually want to use the Google platform for what I'm doing now, because previously I had different requirements. Like I said, this article has been building over the years. It's become my personal cheat sheet, but I don't think it's well organized enough to call it a general cheat sheet. So where is the stuff that I actually need? Yeah, I don't want to do that. There we go. Using the OIDC URL. This is what I prefer. So yeah, let's do this. And just going to add an HTML body here. Let's close off the HTML and open it for good measure, even though it doesn't matter. And add a doc type, even though it doesn't matter. Probably does matter in some small way to have a doc type, but it definitely doesn't matter if you have head and body correct. Ends up working anyway, which is fine. All right. Oh, so I don't even need this meta stuff. I don't need this at all, because this is just going to come in the JavaScript. So actually, I'm going to get rid of that. So that was We don't need that at all. All right. And then the JavaScript. I think that I will... Sometimes I like to put JavaScript right in the HTML file, but because I want to get the syntax highlighting and I want my tools to work properly, I'm going to go ahead and put a script tag here. And we're going to say that the source of this is /js/. Actually, I should be able to do / on both of these because I'm already at the root. And if this project were deployed in a subdirectory, it should still work just fine. So let's call this main.js. I think that's reasonable. And then, oh, you know what though? I wanted it in a subfolder JS. I like that. I like doing that. So public JS will make that directory. And then what we say we'll call this main.js. Yeah. So do I have something? Yeah, I've got that in my paste buffer still. So we can go over this. We will. We will go over this a little bit because it's kind of unfair for me to live stream something and then just paste in some code that I have that already works. It's actually not that unfair because it is described in the blog article. Or maybe example of how to create dynamically in JavaScript. Yeah, it's kind of sorta. It's kind of sorta. It's not entirely. That's okay. All right, so I will go over this a little bit. And that part here, let's put this further down. Also, this whole thing should be wrapped in an iffy. This pattern that I'm typing out right now by memory, this is called an iffy, immediately invoked function expression. And if you're using just plain old JavaScript, you do it. You do it because JavaScript, it throws everything in the global scope by default, and using one of these makes it so that you can selectively export your code. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this on the page here, and it'll be a good refresher for me anyway to make sure that I've got things right in my head. Okay, we're gonna pass in the client ID. We're gonna pass in the redirect URI. I need to think of what that one actually is. I probably have the example down here by where it is. I think that that's just gonna be, in this case, localhost 3000 is what I'm going to be using. Must be listed exactly. So your URLs can be top-level domains. But notice how these end with a /. Authorized redirect URLs must be exactly what you cannot have query parameters or there can be nothing in the redirect URI except for what you put in here. Google will add some query params for you, but you do not get, well, you can add a query param in here, I think. You could do like foo equals bar, but that would not make much sense. That wouldn't be a variable query param. But anything that you want in here has to be listed verbatim, exactly, capitalization. Well, domains are always lowercase and path names are always case sensitive. But yeah, everything needs to be exact. Slashes need to be there. /login is not the same as /login/ etc. Okay, so we need that. And this is basically, so this is saying what domain can we initiate the sign in from. So we can put the sign in button anywhere on this domain. But where can Google redirect back to? It can only redirect back to the enumerated URLs, nothing else. And it cannot have variables in it. Okay, the scope is going to be things like email, username, profile. Especially on Google, it's pretty much those things. And then login hint is if you've done some sort of process to qualify the user. For example, you'll see this on a lot of pages where they might have a list of you can log in with Google or you can log in with whatever. And then they also have, or you can put in your email, and you click put in your email, it goes to the next thing. And then it pops up with asking you for a password or asking you for two-factor authentication or whatever it is, but it still has the Google and the whatever logins listed. So the login hint basically says, if you already have the person's email address, you can pass that as a login hint. And then in the account chooser, it will select that one instead of their default one if it matches, which we'll see the account selector here in a bit. So essentially, I guess it'd be easier just to look at, let's look at an example of the URL. Okay, here it is. This is what we're trying to construct. All this function does, all this rigmarole, is just constructing the Google sign-in URL in the way that Google has specified. So there's a client ID, there's a redirect URI, there's a response type, which in our case is going to be token, because the token is just going to get handed back directly to the browser. Scope is email and profile. Access type is online. You can do online or offline. I don't remember what the difference between the two is. State is something that you can use. So like I said, you can click on the button from anywhere on your domain. You could have a Google sign-in button on any page on your domain. So if you have some state, like say the person is filling out a form and then they decide to log in, or just the fact of whatever page they're on when they click the sign-in button, you would want to use local storage to save the URL that they're on, or whatever data that they're putting in the form, whatever it is that the state of the user, you want to save that state and associate it with basically a random string. So this string that you send out will come back to you. And so then you can use that to rehydrate whatever the user was doing before. Now, I used to be a fan of the idea of doing the pop-up one where it doesn't disrupt the user flow, but for a variety of reasons, it's just not tenable. There is a standard that's coming out called Portals, which will finally allow us to have seamless login. But just as I had figured out how to do seamless login with iframes, Brave and Safari and Firefox all disabled third-party cookies, which makes seamless login not working with an iframe, and then the pop-up login doesn't work on mobile, and we can't have nice things. We just can't. Just can't do it. Anyway, and then the nonce is a random value that is not used at all. It's just part of a security measure. And then the login hint, like I said, yeah, that's that. So all this stuff, that's all this is doing. So math.random to string, we don't need this to be secure random, and math.random is secure in all modern browsers anyway. But even if it weren't secure, if it was an insecure version of math.random, that's fine. For the state and for the nonce, we don't need it to be secure random per se. It just needs to be random enough. I suppose some people will argue with that the nonce should be pure random. No, I don't think that matters, because you're just coming up with something, and then, yeah, because it's just, nonce just means that you can't reuse this request twice. So the request is unique. It cannot, it basically busts caches. It causes things to be different. If there was encryption, there couldn't be any possibility of a known plain text attack and stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, we're creating a random state, a random nonce. We're taking the base URL, we're taking the options. We are creating a URL. I actually could have turned this out into its own function. Probably query stringify is what I would call it. I've written that function. Like this right here, I've written that dozens of times. It's just one of those things that's so common. And then base URL plus, this is the stuff that doesn't change based on what we are trying to do. I always want to get back an ID token from Google, because that's going to have the email address and the first name and last name of the person, if you got their profile, directly in the token. So you get that information with you, as opposed to an access token. You then have to access the user info endpoint. All of this is covered in the blog. So yeah, so we just, we pass some stuff in here and we're good to go. Yep. So I feel good about that. Now to go on to, one thing that I don't have a great solution for yet is I would like to be able to have a good solution. Somebody has this, and if I talk to somebody, they'll be like, oh, well, why aren't you just using this or that? And my answer would probably be, because it's too complicated, and I just want something simple, and it's easier to copy and paste it than it is to have a build system that does all of this inspection on bunches of files and stuff. But this is basically what I want, is I want to be able to take some of the envs from my env file and just sync them over here. And I think for that, what would be cool is if I made a little tool for myself that would just take the env and then turn it into an env.js. The problem is that a lot of the stuff in the env is supposed to be private, so even that wouldn't work. So I think at the end of the day, just some of the stuff. Well, what I could do actually. No, I know something I could do. I know something I could do that could make it generate the thing that I want. Is I could do a certain type of templating where I just tell it what env variables I want. In fact, I think I'm going to do that right now because this is something that I've wanted for a long time, and it's not that hard. So, okay, what we need here is what? Let's call this var env, and we're going to do function. Like I said, everything is global by default. It will be available in all other scripts. And that's okay for me right now. Nothing private goes into the browser anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach env.google client ID equals, and then let's just bashify this. Like that. This, I should probably call this env.tpl for template. And then I'll just create a little something that runs over this. So let's move this out of public. And let's move it here, tpl.js. And I've got all my syntax highlighting because it still ends in JS. And I'm putting my thing that I'm going to be templating into a string. And I will publish this module that I'm creating right now as something, probably. But I'm just going to call this, I'm going to do, should I do this? Should I call it env.js? Because I'm going to call what it outputs env.js. Let's be a little bit better. Let's do gen env.js. So what I'll do, this will run a node. I will require the fs module, do some promises, read file. Let's just not even do promises. I'll just read file sync. This is fine. Oops. I do need, let's see, we're going to require .env and call .config so that our environment variable is good here. We're gonna let's just put this all in line right here right now. And for right now, I'm just gonna put it like that. So yeah, this is going to read that file. I'm going to read it as text. So we can say UTF-8 is how we want to read it. And then, so now this is the text of the file. So all we got to do is just do object.keys process.env, which this could be potentially dangerous in the sense that maybe we don't want. Let's see. Could I tell? Let me go look at the documentation for .env, because I could probably tell what's in there. I'm not going to worry about that right now. That's not relevant to this project. Okay, so this is the env name. So we're gonna iterate over the keys of everything there, and we're just going to do a broad replace of, oh, golly day, this is going to be fun. Let's see if this will work out. Oh, we're gonna need to do new regexp here. And then we're gonna have to use double backslashes. Because strings are already escaped. And let's put in env names. So for example, this will come out to be Google Client ID. And with that, we want to replace this name with its value. There we go. So this could be in multiple places. So let's put G here. Let me actually back this out. Okay. So what we're going to do is replace Google Client ID with the literal value. There's definitely cases where this wouldn't work right because we need to know if it's stringified or whatever. Oh, actually, you know, I think I could do one better. I could do one better on this. So we could determine which type of quote character we want to deal with. Let me see what I already put in here as a double quotes. I'm using double quotes. My pretty RC is set up for double quotes apparently, which is just as well. Okay, let me go back. So I'm going to say replace the whole thing, including the double quotes. Match literally, including quotes. All right, so we're going to update the string. Great. And then we're going to call, I guess I should have, because we're going to use fs twice. We're going to write this out to, what is the location? Public JS env.js. Could also do something kind of cool and maybe write it to the beginning of the other file so that we don't have two files, but whatever, this is good. This is good for now. I just want a little simple dev thing, and I'll put this in a blog or I'll publish it or something so that I have it and I don't forget it. I always prefer to put any code that I'm going to reuse online because it's so much easier for me to Google my username or project name or something and then than it is to go find stuff on my file system, which is redonkulous because Apple has just made Spotlight suck. And they made it suck on purpose because Apple's moving to the cloud. That Spotlight is so horrendously slow. It used to be so fast. I used to brag to all my friends like, "Oh, no wonder you're having such a hard time searching. You're on Windows." But now it's like, now Spotlight's in on it too. It wants to search the entire internet before it searches my hard drive, and it doesn't make good indexes of the hard drive anymore. Anyway, so we'll do this here, and I want to write out, this is going to be UTF-8 is going to be the encoding that we want to use, and then the actual data is going to be env.js, and then so there's a difference between using console.info and console.log for me. Console.log is stuff where I am just happenstantially lazy putting something in. If I want something to only write out when a debug flag is turned on, that's when I use console.debug. When I want something to print out always because it's important information that's part of the process of what the user is going to see, that's when I use console.info. So I got console.info here. And what are we doing? Oh, whoops. So what I want to do is say wrote. And let's go ahead and call this out file. And then let's say And actually, there's one other thing that I like to do here. I want to say, let's call this envjs2. And let's say if envjs is not equal to envjs2, that means something was replaced. Then let's say added, oops, I don't need those extra spaces there. I'm going to get rid of that one too. env name. And I don't want to print out what it is. I guess it shouldn't matter because it should be public. But in the case that it is not public and it's an accident, I'll just leave that there. Added env, or let's say adding. There we go. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to start using this from now on because this is something where I don't do as much on the front end, but when I do, I like to keep it really simple. And this is something that I'm just going to enjoy having. And I'll put it on NPM so I can do like npm-d. No, I'll just make it one of the things I put in NPM scripts for like npm run genenv. In fact, I'll do that here right now as kind of a template for how I'll use it later on. So I'll just call this envgen. So right now it's just gen env.js, env.tpl.js. We didn't actually accept an argument in here, but I would probably update it so that it can, and then it defaults to env.tpl.js. And then I'd probably also make it so that we could give it a file name. I'm not going to do that right now. Using documentation, somebody think that they could change that, but I'll leave that right now like that. So let's do this. Git npm run get env, genenv. Missing script genenv. Didn't I just have that? Oh, envgen. Genenv. Cool. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. I'm going to use this from now on. Let me go ahead and add a little bit of white space there. And then I think I'm going to add some white space up at the top. Got to think about this. Because if it's doing an NPM run, it's going to have a bunch of NPM cruft, and I just want to delineate that better. That looks a little better. That's a little bit more clear. Cool. Oh, bless me. That was a strange burp. All right, so now public JS env.js. Oh, burn. That did not work at all. The question is why? Okay, so first of all, let's just log this out. Let's see. We'll do console.log here. Okay, does that look right in terms of escaping the regular expression? Oh, and there was one other thing I was going to do here as well anyway. This should actually be json.stringify. There we go. That way, if there's any quotes inside of whatever it is, those quotes get escaped as well. Okay, I'm really not clear because we should see. Oh, that I see what happened here. I did not go back and assign env.js as env.js2. Maybe we should give this a different name, like new env.js and new env.js. And then, yeah, let's do that. I don't like just adding news to things. Okay, let's do this again. By the way, I do have the chats open, so if you want to say hello, I see there's been a couple people watching. And oh, I didn't even notice my timer go off. It even flashes red, but I totally missed it. That's okay. I'm going to keep going with this. Got a little bit before dinner time, and I think I can make some good headway here. All right, yeah, that looks great to me. I really like this pattern, I think. we'll see how it works out. So now, oh, now my red light's going off. So the timer was at 0, but it hadn't quite reached 0 yet. So let's go ahead. Let's see. I probably need to break for dinner. So this was a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think it was a good one. It's gonna help me in the future to be more productive, and it's gonna help me here as I have to add variables. I probably won't have to change variables too much. I will have to change variables sometimes. When I go to give the deploy instructions for this, having this as a deploy, well, they'll probably use a different system. Well, one of them is going to use a different system. They're going to use the React system for handling this. The other one, I think he'll like what I created here. Okay, so where were we at? So main.js. One thing is I'm going to go ahead and add to my getignore. I'm going to add the public JS env.js to my getignore. And I'm going to make sure that I've got .env and star.env and .env.star and star.env.star. All of those should be ignored. The one thing that we don't want to be ignored that's going to be exception to that is going to be example.env. So what I'm going to do here is put not example.env, because that one we want to stay visible. Good. This works. I think that worked. It looks like example.env was already in the repository, so it's hard to say. Anyway, okay, I've got that. Let's get back to the thing at hand here. Main.js. Okay, that's where I need to be in. Main.js. All right. So now what I should be able to do is do env dot, and I'm actually going to document this way. Okay, and I forgot. Let me go back a step to the index.html, and I'm going to add in above main.js env.js. I like it. Okay, so there we go. So now I've got documented where env comes from. Even when something is a global, I don't like to just reference it as a global because that's not super clear to the person that has to read this crap, right? And we could do some other stuff to make it so that this works even when it gets bundled in Webpack and whatnot, which is not something I'm too worried about right now because I think this is kind of copy-pasty. Anyway, so here I can use env.google client ID. Was there any other place I was using the .env? Nope, that's it. Okay. And then what was this one? This is the redirect URL that we want to use. And this by default should be document.location. Path name. We don't want to include any query strings that might exist. No, we just need to define this, actually. We can't, I don't think it's reasonable to do a default for this. We need to explicitly define this. So let me go ahead and put this in my env, and this is going to be redirect URI, I think is what it is. And so we're just going to put this in here. As with the slash there. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to the example.env as well. So let's say that that's what it might look like. Sure. All right, I'm going back to my main.js. And in this case, I don't think we're going to use the hint. Email and profile makes sense to leave in there. This is going to be env.google redirect URI. Okay. Oh, and did I update the TPL? I totally forgot if I actually updated the TPL. No, I did not. Another interesting thing to do might be to replace, and this might even be easier to do. I'm gonna try this out. I'm just gonna try it out for size real quick, little experiment. Let's do our gen env, and we'll say that there's 2 of these regular expressions. We'll call this one revar, and let's make another one, which we'll call reexp, which meaning expression, but env dot, and then whatever the name is. Yeah, I think this is actually going to be cleaner, plus a semicolon. And then we will replace that with the same thing, but we will put the variable in there. So this one would be match env.Google client ID, like this. So then I don't even have to do the equals. I just declare what it is. And that, I kind of like that, because then I could use that in my regular code. That might be going a bridge too far, because then that means that my regular code is going to get No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. We're going to leave that one alone for now. That's a bridge too far. Okay. So now what I need to do is say new env.js, and then this needs to be new env.js also. Oh, and this needs to be not just like that. We need to have the plus in here as well, or the equals in here as well. So we need to have the equals. Okay. Let's run it. npm run get env. Oh, new env.js has already been declared, so I just need to get rid of that. Okay. Oh, and I don't want that stupid console.log in there anymore. All right, let's see if this is working. All right, it's working like a charm. I love it. Must be Mick Codin, because ba. I love it. All right, that was a little cheesy even for me. That's not even my personality. I don't know why I did that. That was out of character. Because no, I would do it, but I'd go, must be Mick Codin. Ba. I'm coding it. That's how I would do it, for reals. This looks wrong. That looks absolutely wrong. There we go. That's fixed now. Okay, so let's go back to main. Sorry, we're jumping around a bit, but that was the part that I just, after years of coding, I still find things where it's like, I should have taken 10 minutes to do this years ago. Well, I'll take 10 minutes to do it now, or 15, or whatever it is. Try not to get too sidetracked with those things, but sometimes I do for a few hours, and I don't. That it is better to do it, in my opinion. Okay, so what we want to do here, we're going to set the URL. That actually needs to be disabled. What we need to do is find out if I had this in the blog. So we're going to get the query string from the URL. So if it's like foo equals bar, that's what we're going to get. From that, so here query.foo would equal bar in that case. So what we need to do is find out if we have a Google token in that query string. And I had a little snippet for how to do that in here, I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm wrong. I should put that in here because it's a snippet I've used several times now. So I forget, what is that going to look like? I think it's going to say, here we go. I know what it is. So if https accounts.google.com is equal to query.add issuer, because all tokens signed by Google set Google as their issuer. I had that in an example here somewhere. I'm just going to search for, because I know that I had it here, ISS colon, verify ops, yeah, okay, ISS quote colon, there we go. Yes, yes, this is what the ID token will look like. And how do we make sure that it's a Google token and not a Microsoft token or a LinkedIn token or the other things that we're going to add, because we will be adding other things? We know by the issuer. So, so first of all, actually it's going to be ID token. Sorry, I went 2 bridges too far. So if we have query.id token, then at that point we need to parse. Then we need to use that parser function that was in here as well. So I guess what we could say is if there's not an ID token, we could actually exit out of this early. I don't know how we do that at a top level. No, this isn't an iffy, so we can return. Sometimes it's nice to have an iffy just so you can return from your main execution flow. In fact, I recommend always having I should just call this function main. Yeah, that makes sense. That's what it should be called. There should always be a main function. I don't know why JavaScript doesn't have one. It's stupid. It should have one. There. I said it. Not that I wouldn't have said it. Again, sometimes when you're on camera, you do things that are out of character for your personality. Because a lot of my goofy stuff is just me, but sometimes I feel like I'm just filling the air because I gotta talk while I'm on the camera. Okay, so I can tell if there is an ID token or if there isn't an ID token. If there is not an ID token, and then here we need to do a little bit of what I call AJ query. So this is something that I have so much muscle memory on that I can just write it right away. There we go. There's AJ query for you. All right, so here we want to do hidden. Hidden equals false, I think is what it is. Because we're going to create that button, but we're going to hide it by default. I'm going to go do that right now. Sorry, I'm switching back and forth between files. I probably should use, what is it? Is it nerd tree? I think I've got that set up here. No? Huh. Let me get nerd tree real quick. And what was the other one that I needed? I think it was Vim leader. Yep, okay, cool. So now, there we go. A little bit nicer. Of course, I always forget what I'm doing. I go back and forth between the command line all that so often. Anyway, I was coming here because I wanted to mark this as hidden by default. Okay. And then let's go back over here. So Vim leader, by the way, sets your leader key to spacebar in addition to the default, which is backspace. So a lot of people either use spacebar or comma. So Vim leader sets it to both, aliases it to both spacebar and comma. So that no matter which one you're used to, you can still go with it. And then the Vim nerd tree does come with a tiny little config that goes into your Vim file. It actually says so when it shows the output. And so you can hit leader in to open up nerd tree. Or maybe you could always open up leader in to nerd tree. I don't know if it was control in or leader in. Anyway, leader in will open up nerd tree. So space in opens up nerd tree. So here we are. Index.html, that's where I was. Where am I going back to now? In here, main.js. Okay. Gosh, 15 minutes left. We can do it. We'll get there. We'll get there. We're going to get the whole thing done in 15 minutes. It's going to be magical. All right. Now we need to have the parse function, and I'm going to add the parse function up here as well. Let's see, where did the parse function go? I'm going to search for parse. 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 Okay, so we got parse query string, and then a little bit further below, we have the parse JWT function and URL base 64 to base 64. Yeah, because the browser is so funny. We make these web standards. URL base 64. Guess what doesn't support URL base 64? The browser doesn't support it. Why would it? Why would we make a URL safe version of base 64 and then include it in a browser? Why would we update two standards at the same time that are relevant? No. That's not how the world works. Are you crazy? You insane people. You're out of your ever-loving minds. Okay, I'm gonna move AJ query up to the top actually, because it's of that level of awesomeness that it deserves it. By the way, I hit GG and Shift G to go back and forth between top and bottom, and then if I know what the line number is, which is normally when I'm looking at error messages, I can just hit like 20G, 20 Shift G. What does 20G do? Nothing. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going back down to the bottom. So I remember line numbers sometimes and go between them, but that makes it hard to copy and paste, and it takes up valuable screen real estate. So I'm going to get rid of it right now. And I added in the paste function, or I pasted in the parse JWT function. So that's all it was. The most complicated part about parsing a JWT into a JWS, because that's the parse form of a JWT, is the URL base 64 encoding that you're patching for the browser. Maybe it would be nice if they would just fix it. Just fix it. It's crazy to me when they added array buffer. That was the perfect time. That was the perfect time to fix, or to add something else. Because what do you want to do with the buffers? You want to switch them between hex and base 64, of course. Would have been the perfect time to include that in the spec. But no, we can't have nice things. All right, so now I've got the parse function. Now I need to use it. So if I've gotten this far, then I should parse JWT on query.id token, because I have one. And I think it's possible that it can throw. Let me check. Did I do anything here? No, I just let it be. That's fine. It's possible that it can throw. I don't remember. Did I wrap a try catch around it? I should probably. I don't like to expose try catches, because I think they look ugly. So I would think maybe put a try catch in parse JWT itself and then just return null. And then I'd know. Yeah, then I could actually parse this up ahead of time. We'll see. Doesn't matter. We're just going to leave it like it is for right now. No, I'll put a try catch around it. I hate try catches. I hate them so much. They're the worst boilerplate in the world, especially in JavaScript, because JavaScript has 6 different ways to do a try catch. You've got your promise catches, you've got your try catches, you've got something else, I'm sure. I like promise catches just fine. I think they look nice. Because this one, it visually doesn't represent what's going on, whereas a promise catch does visually represent what's going on. Anyway, that done, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to get our JWS out of our JWT. I wish more people knew that JWS was the name of a decoded JWT. And then what we're trying to do was this. We're going to check to see if JWS.issuer, and I like to put constants on the left, because no matter what language you're in, that will result in an error. Well, maybe not in PHP. PHP might just keep chugging along. I mean, not this, but that would result in an error, except maybe in PHP. I don't remember. PHP does lots of dumb things like that, but almost every language, this would be an error. And we don't want to accidentally assign that to this, because that in an if statement would, of course, always be true. And then, boom, you just defeated your security. Well, it's on the front end, so there is no security on the front end, but you get the point. Okay, so we're going to look at that, and if that is the issuer, then we definitely don't need to show the Google sign-in button. I don't know whether it should be hidden or disabled. I guess it's a link, so it can't be disabled. But then we know what we're doing with this. We could also use a switch statement there because we're going to support multiple at some point in the future. And there needs to be some fallback of if things don't work out. But at this point, we can post to the endpoint that we haven't created yet. So to do, let me just think about this for a second. Because actually what I want to do is I want to go back first, and this will probably have to be after dinner. Well, I'll check. I'll actually leave. I'll come back, and I'll see, because dinner might not be until 6:30. I don't know what it is today. Keeping me on my toes, you know. So we want a window.fetch. Actually, get rid of those stupid things. Those are just going to annoy me. And then we give it the URL, which is going to be our it should be document.location.host plus. This is the part that I like the least. This is something that there needs to be a better. I think I did have this in here though. Did I already have this? I saw something about a base URL. Let me search for this. Base URL. Base URL, base URL, base URL. Nope, not that. Okay, and we're a little bit further down now. Yeah, I need to clean this up as something that I can just copy and paste. Not because this is kind of the cheat sheet, but I need a thing that I just copy and paste wholesale for this, and that I should link to it in the blog and say here's the full thing, or maybe put it down at the bottom of the blog. Here's the full thing, and I should use my little env widget so that it can work generically without having a fixed, example.com URL in it. So this needs to be plus, so it's scheme plus host plus path name. So this is going to end up being scheme is HTTPS. I think it includes a colon. I'm almost positive that it does. And then host is going to be localhost 3000. And then path name is going to be, say, root. We don't actually want to add path name. We want to do API authn session OIDC google.com. And I think now I've got an even better idea for my env gen to have it replace the line so that I could have defaults in that file, in the template file, and then you could override it with an env. I like that a lot. Okay, I guess I'm just writing this, so I don't know why I've got it in a comment anymore, because I was going to put it as a to-do, but now I'm actually writing out the whole thing. So I've got base URL plus, and this plus should be there. That right there. That's going to be the path that we put in the README. Let's go ahead and double check the README here. API authn session OIDC google.com. Yep. That's what we put in the README. And then I forget what all the options are, but it's probably, I don't think we need cores in this case. I don't know if we need any options. I think, whoops. I think we just need to .catch and do something smart. Also, let's make this an async main. But I don't ever like to use try catch when I can use dot catch. So if we get an error during the initial fetch, what do we do? I don't know. I mean, this is like hardcore exception. I'm going to say console.log error, and then we do the old-fashioned window.alert at this point. In fact, I don't even want to handle this error. This is just demo code. This is just to get to the point of being able to run through the flow on my own, so that I can get the token to do the handoff. So I'm not going to spend any more time on this, because this code is not actually going to get used. Okay, so I'll finish that out because I already did it. And then what we really need to worry about, let's see, let resp equal await, and then let JSON equal await resp.json. And what was that going to give back? That's going to give back our access or ID token. Oh, and we should log out this token here, because like the rest of this stuff, once we have a token to test with, in fact, we should even yeah, I have to think on that. Anyway, let's yeah, we'll call that a log, sure. Okay, so one thing that I probably did not explain very well as I'm going through this, because I tend to think about everything at once, because you have to learn to do that. You have to learn to think about the end result and then work forward to the beginning result, and not think about the beginning and then work to the end, because the end is where all of the important conditions are. So I'm thinking about, with this, I'm not even thinking about how do we click the button yet. I'm thinking about if the button's already been clicked, then we don't want to, if we already have the Google token, if we're at the end of the process where we're getting the Google token, we don't want to show the Google sign-in button. And so that's why I'm sorry, I should explain that earlier, but I'm working through this backwards from, okay, assuming that we just completed the process and we got the token, how do we do something meaningful with the token? And then I'm going to go back once I handle this, and I'm going to handle the bit where we actually click the button. Okay, so there's the JSON. If I get this back, then I should have a token. All right, and for the purposes of this being demo code, I actually am going to call this console.info, although I don't know if that works all the time in the browser. I'll leave it console.log. I have to check on that. Window.alert. So let's say if. Oh, and I want another function real quick. I'm going to put this back up the top near AJ query. I'm going to call this function report. And it's going to take an error, and then I'm going to go back down here, and it is going to be this. We're going to replace this with report. I don't know what happened there. What? Oh, what went wrong? I'll figure it out in a second. Oh, it's probably a closing bracket is extra or missing or something. So then I guess I want to rethrow the error. Let's call it die instead of report. Oh, okay, I see. I was in the middle of this thought, and then I jumped to that thought because I wanted to be able to catch this and do die. And then here I'm going to want to be able to die as well. Okay. All right. I'm going to give myself another 15 minutes on this, and then I'll go check on the situation with when I should be prepared to stop for dinner. But I haven't heard anything yet. In fact, I'm just going to send a little... No, I'm not. I'm going to wait on it. I'm going to do 15 more minutes. Then I'm going to do it because I think I can get some progress done. Dang it. Where'd that go? Oh, no. Close out, abort, abort. Something went wrong. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we are. What are we trying to do? We are trying to check to see if this JSON, which maybe should have a better name like result. Let's say result. If this result has ID token or result.access token, then we're just going to alert. Congrats. You win. And then otherwise, we're going to say something, no token, something went wrong. There we go. Check the console for your token. A wonderful success message. Okay. So we got the token, we handled the token, we did all that we were supposed to do, and then we're like this, the end result of this is the browser can use that token to do something useful. We did actually generate the URL here, which I think I kind of want to clean this part up a little bit. It looks worse because NerdTree is open. Wait, how do I close NerdTree? I thought that it was just... oh, like that. There we go. You can do leader in to switch between the NerdTree windows. And then if you quit in the NerdTree tree, then that closes it out. Okay. So this would be our bespoke token. Bespoke means custom, essentially. It's just a cool word that I learned recently, and I heard other people using it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's like a more snooty way to say custom. Sound more intelligent, you know? So this is all looking good, and this should be a switch statement because we're going to handle multiple of these in the future, but it's okay for now. Okay, if this parse thing doesn't work, you know what I'll do? I'll just... The nice thing about await is... There we go. The nice thing about await is you can await anything. So I can get rid of try catches by just awaiting something and then putting .catch at the end of it because it'll turn it into a promise. It adds like 1 micro tick of extra function call or something to it, but I don't care. Especially not for something like this. Okay. Let me think for a second. Where am I at here? I've got all that done. So I'm showing it. It would be usable. So it actually is usable. I actually did do the first part first because the button link is usable if we get to here. Then it is non-hidden and it is usable. If somebody clicks on it, it'll go through the redirect process and it'll come back. So I did do the first part first. But one thing that I didn't do, I want to go ahead and test this real quick because this might be a good stopping point anyway. But the one thing that I didn't do that we should do is we should... Oh, sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Oh. We should check to see if we already have a session because we don't need to do a Google login and we don't need to check for Google Exchange or any of that if we already have a session. However, since that might take slightly more time, because these things we know synchronously. We know if the query parameters are there. We know we can show the button synchronously. And it won't do any harm if the button is showing for a brief moment and they happen to click it when they're already logged in. They'll just log in again, no big deal. And if all goes well, the redirect will just happen instantaneously. They'll just get an updated token, and it'll be just about the same. But one thing that we do want to do here, and I do need to, I'm going to put a to-do on this fetch thing. Where's fetch? Fetch, window.fetch. Okay, to-do. Make sure we've got the right options for fetch. I don't remember what they are, but I think there's a couple things that it's good to generally add to the fetch options. Probably telling it that we want to accept JSON and something like that. Anyway. One thing that I wanted to do with this was before or after or sometime, where should it go? Because there we're parsing. I don't want to await this. This can happen in the background. It's fine if it does. Actually, I guess it should just happen here. If not token. No. I don't know. I'm not sure when we should have this, actually. I guess it goes here, which means that this should just become a function again, which should be, we'll call this attempt refresh. So we're going to attempt to refresh the token. So if we don't have a token in the query string right now, then we should attempt to refresh the token. And we could await this. Let's say we do. And then that will delay. So the button will be disabled while we're figuring out whether or not they're logged in. I'm of two minds about it, but we're going to go with it for now because it's simple. Oh, one of the things we need to do in both of these cases was change the method to post. So let me go do that in the one down below. Whoops. There we go. Go back up here. So the method is post. And if it has a cookie, then it'll work. If it doesn't have a cookie, then it won't. Let me go down to response here. And we want to get the JSON. Yeah. So same thing. We want to do the same thing here. We're going to get the JSON. And then let's see, what else do we want to do? So really, we should have some common functionality between this one. We're going to call this refresh. This is going to be our refresh endpoint that we've documented. And cookies are going to be sent automatically. I think we do need to say something to get it to include cookies. Let me Google that real quick. Window fetch cookies. I think it's something. Where is, there we go. That should be the first result. I don't know why it isn't. That makes me sad. It's probably because MDN, like, it's got a lot of great technical information, but sometimes they need to put a TLDR up at the top. Like there we go. That's good. Okay, here we go. Mode, course, cache, no cache, credentials, same origin. Yes, this is what we want. Which I don't even think that would mean anything anymore. Whoops. I need to get back to the code here. I probably need to just put some default options. So we need to do that there. We need the same origin here. Do we need that? No, we don't need cookies. Well, let's see, because they may have changed I think they may have changed the definition. Credentials. Won't send cross-origin cookies. Okay, so we actually don't have to do that. So we're good. The default option is same origin now. So I'm just going to leave that out. Less code, better. All right, yeah, so this should work. So what should happen is that it should attempt to refresh, but we don't actually really want to die. That's not the right thing to do. We do want to die if we can't refresh the token, I think. Or... Let me think about this. And I also got to think about, I think this is wrong too. Does that work? Yeah, okay. Okay. I'm going to create a function called noop that's not going to do anything. There, I'm going to catch it with a noop. And then, so if response, if not response, then we're done. I always try to keep the indentation as far out as possible. So if not response, then we are done. And result, yeah, so the same thing we want to do here. Just want to do no ops on this. And then depending on what we get back, so let's say we're going to return this. Well, that one actually seems like it should die, because we should at least get back an error message there. All right, attempt refresh. So in this case, this should be something like let result equals, and if not result.id token and not result.access token. I think I did an or somewhere earlier that I need to go fix real quick now that I'm looking at this. What do we need to, let me straighten this out. So if we do not have an ID token and we don't have an access token, then do we need to return? No, absolutely not. Really, it's then that's when we need to show this. Yes, that's correct. If we have neither of those, then we need to show this. Otherwise, to do carry on. Whatever the application is going to do. So there needs to be some more something or other around this. I can take this code. I might just wrap this up as a little library. Yeah, I might just wrap this up as a little library specifically to pair with the other portion of this. And then how you viewify it and reactify it, that's not really where I'm at, but just getting it to work as a basic demo, this should be good. Okay, so this is the refresh token. And it's okay if that's nothing. May be empty. So we've got a refresh token, and then we've got this thing down here. Our bespoke tokens. Did we log out our token at this point? Yeah, we did. We log out our token right there. Okay, well with that, I probably write way too much code before I go test something. And I don't know if it's true to say it's because of years of experience that I hold more things in my head. I think that has something to do with it. But I think I am also somewhat fortunate in having one of those heads that can hold can hold lots of stuff in it. And one of the things that I just remembered is that my port on this is 3042. So let's change that to that. And we need to change that here as well. 3042. And my timer is up again, so I really do need to I really do need to at least go check and find out how much more time that I have. Because usually dinner is sometime between 5:30 and 6:30. Okay, so what am I going to do over here? I'm just going to go check this out on localhost, and we're going to check it out on 42, I think is what I put it on. Yes. So there's probably some sort of error. Let's see what we got, because it's not showing the button. Base URL is not defined. Okay, that's fine. Server is responding with not found for something or other. Let's see if we can find out what that is. I would expect that it would be... I don't know. Oh, it's just the base URL problem now. All right, let's go fix that base URL problem. Base URL. There's base URL. There's base URL. There is base URL. There's base URL. Here is base URL. Okay. So we need a couple of different base URLs. I think this one should be called OIDC base URL, the one that's in this Google code. So I'm going to rename that. And I think that this base URL we should be able to declare at the top of the document. I think that that is fair. So I'm going to go up to the top of the document, and I'm going to declare base URL. Okay. And I'm going to move no op up. No, I'm not. That's redonkulous. Don't do these things, AJ. Okay. Now, what have I got left to do on this? I need to refresh. Let's see what's going on. Unexpected error. That's great. I think I know why that is. Yeah, we hit the refresh endpoint, and there is no refresh endpoint. So let's see, where did we get that error? Because I want to kind of ear tag where it came from. Unexpected token and main.js 20 die. Okay, but what's the stack trace on that? Can we get it back to attempt refresh? Attempt refresh. So this one right here. Catch die. But what I really want to do on that is catch ignore, because it's not there yet. I'll go implement it really quick. We're just going to, what is this thing called? App.js. Yeah, why didn't that autocomplete work before? All right, we've got, that's the error handler. I wish they had, it was app.error instead of app.use or something like that. Just so visually it's more clear. Okay, we're going to go back up to the session part. No, we've got a refresh. We've got API, auth-in, refresh. That's right there. Okay, let's double check on this. Undefined. Okay, so something is not right with the way that things are coalescing. Let's go look. The base URL would be suspect in my mind. Let's go back here. Base URL. Document.location.host. Sanity check. Doesn't look like there's any typos here. Seems like it would have thrown an error if there were, but just sanity check. Okay. It is not scheme. Again, incongruency. It's called scheme in most places, like in the request. It's called protocol in the location. Got it. Protocol. In most APIs, it's called scheme. But it's mix and match even in the browser. Okay, cool. Nice. It even looks nice. I like it. Okay, so let's see what we got in the browser here. Let's clear out all the errors and refresh and see what we get to. Bad request. Excellent. Refresh. Token may be empty. Good. Token is not defined. That one we do want to fix. So this should be result. What line was that on? 122. Okay, let's look for 122 and then Shift G, and then this should be result. And it was going to stop anyway, so it didn't affect the functionality. All right, let's take a look. Invalid session. Great. This is wonderful. This is exactly what we want. And then Google sign in. All right, it's redirecting. Okay. I think the problem may be that the semicolon is on the inside of the string. Let's go check that. You got to keep a sharp eye for these types of things, and I'm not being facetious about that. You really, really do. You really got, I mean, so many errors that you encounter are simply a matter of, you know, if you need to get glasses, get glasses. If it's late at night and you got something, you know, some sleep in your eye or whatever, like if you got dust on your screen, just the difference between a comma and a semicolon and where they're positioned. Is it inside the quote? Is it outside the quote? Okay, I'm going to look for somewhere that's happening. Base URL. Okay, let's see if we can get a better idea. It is redirect URI. It could be, is it here? Okay, that one looks fine. That one looks fine. And of course it could be nothing. Okay, let's go back into here. That looks right. So I don't think that the problem is there, although that could take some time to update. That could take a couple minutes to update sometimes if it's got something cached. Let's take a look again at the error message. That's definitely wrong, and it's probably not on. You know what? It might be in the env file. Let's check the .env file. That looks right there. Okay, let's check gen env, and let's see. Okay, that looks right to me. I'm going to do npm run gen env. And then I'm going to go, I should have inspected it before to see if this was the problem. Okay, so that definitely is a problem right there. So somewhere in here, there's a semicolon where it ought not to be. Can we find it? We're going to replace this entire thing with this json.stringify. I don't know. I'm having kind of a hard time with this one here. It looks to be this line. All right, let's look in the TPL. Okay, this looks fine to me. All right, let's look at the env again. This looks fine to me. Let me get rid of it. Public JS env. And actually, since I've got stuff pretty much where it's working and where I'm pretty much at a good pause point, let me go ahead and stage all of this. And I should probably do a whip commit as well. So I'm going to check out B, get on a whip branch. What's the diff between whip and this? Okay, let's do a stash. I'm going to stash everything. Is there a difference between this and a whip? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Okay, I might be on the wrong branch here. Default to port 3000. Okay, check out whip. 1800, 1803. Oops, master, fine. All right. So stash pop should work? Yeah, okay. So let me go ahead and stash everything that is working, and I'm going to undo this commit later. But just for right now, I'm just going to do whip nay nay. And let's get that pushed. Huh. Okay, let's check out master again. Oh, just documentation changes. Okay. So let's whip again, and let's rebase on master again, and let's push again. Really? Ah. Not really. Okay, so things are mostly working. I've got one little problem that I need to sort out. npm run genyinv. Does anybody see it that's watching? Okay, I'm going to slow down a little bit. This is just a syntax error. This is one of those things where my eye just isn't catching it. So I'm going to go look at the problem again. This is absolutely 100% definitely a problem. That semicolon should absolutely 100% be outside, not inside. It's correct here, it's incorrect here. So that is 100% unquestionably the problem. Which means that it is probably this thing right here. So if I got rid of this, I'm just going to get rid of that. And if I ran this again, I'm expecting that it's not possible. Yeah, we do not have that error. But to me, this does not make sense. Because I'm replacing this expression, which does include a semicolon, which I don't think has any special meaning. And I'm replacing that whole thing and with this whole thing. And I don't see, is there some special character? Okay, let's escape that. We need to double escape that. That's just a flaw. I don't know. I'm going to try escaping this just to see what happens. That should replace the whole string. I don't think that's a special character, but we're going to find out real quick. And then I'm going to abandon it for the time being so I can finish my testing so that I can go. Okay, so logically, I'm not following how this is happening. I could follow that bit right there when I had it escaped. Because I would imagine, let me go ahead and get rid of this one. Is this, oh, do you see it? I see it. So I'm going to undo here a little bit. It was not, this was nothing to do with it. JSON.stringify plus. Plus is on the inside. It should be on the outside. Simple. All right. All right, I'm going to npm run that again. And then this time, I think it'll go through our process. And then it's definitely time that I should break. Even if dinner's not ready, I need to go break to spend time with the fam. Localhost 3000. Okay. So there, the only thing that's wrong is that the port is not set. Now, in a properly to-spec env file, I would be able to do this. But that's not what this is. And I'm not making my own today, although let's put that on the projects board to look at the pull request, because I'm sure somebody's already pull requested it. look at the pull request for .env in Node, and I think I can just pull in some pull requests that haven't been accepted. I'm pretty sure the project's been fairly stagnant. I mean, once you write it to spec, you're done. There's nothing more to do. You write it to the spec, you stop writing code. It is complete. It isn't deprecated. It is complete. So anyway, I think I could go look at the pull requests. I bet other people, I know somebody already implemented the export. I know that's super easy to implement. It's just a replace of a string at the beginning of a line. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody has implemented multi-line strings if they're not already in there, and then the variables so that prior variables can be included as envs lower down. In any case, is my example.env up to date? Yeah, that's looking good, I think. Yeah, okay. So let's generate this again. And then let's go back to our 3042. And then we'll do a Google sign-in. And we'll continue as AJ. And we'll get back our token. And I was expecting something. Parse JWT.catch is not a function. Okay, I know how to handle this. Hold my beer. I don't drink. Okay, let me get back there. Whoops. What the heck? Oh, that's weird. My whole history just went wonky for a second. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to do main. Parse JWT. See, this is what you have to do. But this will work. Okay. And again. One more time with feeling. There we go. Get the token. And... Huh. Okay, I lied. I lied. My whole thing about, oh, you can just throw a weight in front of something and then it turns it into a promise. I mistook. I want to avoid this having to have a try catch. Oh well, I'm just going to have a try catch. Which means I need to move this up. Just, I guess, no, I'm not. I will die on this hill. For no good reason, I'm going to make this async. Just so I can catch the error. Oh, come on. Oh, okay. Yeah. Look, there we go. ID token. But I didn't get my winner chicken dinner alert. Let me see why that was for a second. ID token. Our bespoke tokens. Huh. I bet this is coming out as a promise now or something. I did something wrong, obviously. All right. Uno mas. Or maybe dos mas or tres mas. Let's try not to get into the quinceañeras. Protected. Oh, duh. Claims. Duh. proper JWS. Okay. All right, this time, I really think this time we've got it. I think so. Yeah, what? No. Oh, come on. Not found. Oh, yeah, because the exchange isn't there. No, I'm down with that. Because we haven't built the exchange yet. Okay, so in part 4, we will be building the token exchange, which I think I already had the code for. I don't know if I talked about that. It's in the blog here as well. So where is the exchange code in here? Google public key. Yeah, it's here. This is it. This is going to take a lot less time. I won't say I promise, but I think this is going to take a lot less time because we're going to be doing. This is really just copy paste stuff. Well, that was copy paste stuff too, but for some reason it wasn't as complete. This one, well, we already have we didn't have the boilerplate done on the other one. We didn't have the place where we were already going to insert our button and all that. This one, that's all been done because we did it in the prior video. So, yeah, we'll pick up there. Let me see if I want to click out of that. Click out of that. Let's see, close out of the tabs we don't need. I'm going to check one last time for any questions or comments. Nope, got a couple thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate that. And all right. Then I am past due for taking a break, y'all. Adios. Oh, one more thing. Like if you liked, subscribe if you want to follow on the Live Code channel or the Beyond Code channel where there's the more edited, curated videos, all that down in the doobly-doo. As well as I just added a gear section. So for example, if you want this or this one, I put this stuff on my blog, just things that I do. The blackout curtains, no, because I got them before and they don't exist anymore. But the what was it that I was going to mention? Oh, well, I don't have this on. There's a kit.co link, kit.co/coolaj6, and it has camera stuff. It has some of the computer stuff. Not as much of the computer stuff as I probably should. It has GameCube stuff if you're into my GameCube videos. All that, and then it also links to some of the tutorial videos that I've watched that are really good, that are the structured, concise ones, not the live streams like this. So yeah, check those out. Even if you don't want the gear, if you're interested in some of the, just look for the video links. If there's anything like how to use the mic better, anyway, that stuff's in there. So all that said, you have the best evening ever. And I'll catch you for part 4, maybe tonight, if we're lucky. We'll see. Got to spend some time with the fam. Enjoy that. But, might want to wind down and relax again tonight. So, adios.